Hello, how are y'all doing? All right. We're gonna be doing some stuff with factoring quadratics today. Gonna make sure we do a little bit of review at the beginning, review of what we've done the past few days. So, without further ado, let me get my ugly mug out of here. Bye, ugly mug. All right, let's go ahead and start off with these review problems. Go ahead and pause the video and complete these four problems. Alrighty. Now with number one, remember we're dealing with numbers first. So I'm looking for what can I divide out of all three of these evenly. Um, always start with the smallest number, so 20. And there's a little trick here I wanted to make sure you saw. All three of these end in a zero. All three numbers end in a zero. So if all three numbers end in a zero, that means I can divide them by 10. Okay, so divide by 10. See, 30r to the 6 divided by 10, that would be 3r to the 6. Negative 20r to the third divided by 10 is negative 2r to the third. And negative 20r divided by 10 is negative 2r. Okay. I look through. The smallest number is 2. I can divide 2 by 2 and by 1. And I cannot divide 3 by 2. So 1, I'm done. Done with my numbers. Okay. Now you're looking at your variables, and the smallest one is r to the first. So that means I can divide out an r. So let's go ahead and divide that. Hold on a second. Okay, apparently they had to test the audio at the school here. So let's keep going here, dividing out an r. So when I divide an r out of r to the sixth, that leaves me with 3r to the fifth. When I divide an r out of the third, that becomes minus 2r squared. And when I divide this r out, it's down just minus 2. Okay, so that's what goes inside of my parentheses. On the outside, we basically multiply those together. So 10 times 1r is 10r. And that would be our answer. Okay, the next one. Look at all of these, 24, 12. All right, again, audio. Okay, so 24, 12, 18. Smallest number is our 12. Okay, so I'm going to work with the 12, and I can divide 12 by 12, 24 by 12, but not 18. 6. I can divide all three of these by 6. So let's divide them by 6. That's going to leave me with 4b. That one's going to become 2b squared. And this one's going to become 3b to the third. Okay. I'm still looking at my numbers. 4, 2, 3. Smallest one is 2, and I can't divide 3 by 2, so 1, I'm done. On to the variables. Okay, the smallest one is this b to the first, so I'm going to divide that out. Okay, so divide that out. 4b divided by 1b. So take the b away, it becomes just 4. B squared, take away b, because I'm dividing. It becomes plus 2b. And 3b to the third divided by 1b, take away the b, it becomes positive 3b squared. If that's what goes inside of my parentheses, and then I multiply those, and that's what goes on the outside of the parentheses. Okay. Wanted to make sure we did some of these. We're actually going to be doing the opposite of this today. So number 3, we have 2 things times 2 things. Make our 2 by 2 box. So n plus 8 on the side, n plus 7 on the top, and we do our multiplications. Okay. N times n is n squared. N times 7 is 7n. 8 times n is 8n. 8 times 7 is 56. Add up our like terms. So I have my n squared. My n's get added up. That would be 15n plus 56. Okay. Number 4 is very similar. 2 things times 2 things. Let's make our 2 by 2 box. On the side, I'm going to put my 4x plus 5. And on the top, I'm going to put my 8x plus 2. Okay, and I multiply. 4x times 8x is 32x squared. 4x times 2 is 8x. 5 times 8x is 40x. 5 times 2 is 10. We add up our like terms. We have 32x squared. Add up my x's. Remember, when we add, we don't mess with the exponents. So we plus 48x and plus 10. Okay. Now, I will tell you the big reason why I wanted to do these 3 and 4 as our review is that is simplifying. Okay, we're multiplying those together. We use the box, we multiply to get this quadratic, is what this is called. It's called a quadratic because the biggest exponent is 2. Okay, and this one is a trinomial because there's 3 terms. Well, what we're going to be working on today is we're going to be starting with this type of a problem, and we're going to be learning how to break it apart, how to factor it. And our final result after I factor will look like what we started with. So these are kind of the reverse of each other. Okay, multiplying things together and then dividing them apart, factoring them. Okay, now there are some different methods that we use. What we use in my class is called the airplane method. Okay, so make sure we're writing these steps down. So the first step is we're going to divide the greatest common factor from the quadratic. Okay, now this is something you always check. If you're going to fly in a plane, you hope and pray that somebody is checking everything before the plane starts. Okay, so what am I talking about when I talk about dividing out the greatest common factor? I'm essentially talking about you need to check things like we did on number 1 and number 2 of our warm-up. Now, typically, it's just going to be the numbers that we have to worry about, but we always have to check. Okay, how do you know you're done? When it's 1, it's done. Now, once the check is done, and once that's finished, then we go on to magic numbers. We start our propeller. Okay, and that's why we make it an X. We start our propeller. Just a reminder when we do this, on the top is A times C. On the bottom is our B. So it multiplies to be whatever this number is, adds to be whatever this number is. And our goal is to get these 2 magic numbers. Okay? Got our magic numbers. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put our wings out. Okay? So you always start off whatever AX is, and you'll see what I mean by that here soon. Okay? Always AX. And then in these other blanks, you are going to put whatever your 2 magic numbers are. Now, it doesn't matter which one you put where, but you put them both down. Okay. Step 4, you're going to put your wheels down. And that's where we divide our greatest common factor. We're going to look at each individual binomial. You know, look at, is there something I can divide out? Is there something I can divide out? Okay. If you do this correctly, your 2 wheels should multiply together to be your A value. You'll see that when I do these. Once that is finished, we're going to write our final factored form. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples here. Hopefully we stop getting paused and interrupted by the PA going off. Can only hope. So let's look at this first one. B squared minus 12b plus 35. Okay, so first things first. Check for greatest common factor. Okay, smallest number is 1, so when it's 1, it's done. So that part's finished. I'm going to start our propeller. Okay, remember A times C on the top. So A is 1, B is negative 12, C is 35. So 1 times 35 is 35. and it adds up to be negative 12. Now you would go through the process of figuring out what numbers multiply to be 35 and add up to be negative 12. The two numbers at work are negative 5 and negative 7. Negative 5 times negative 7 is 35. Negative 5 plus negative 7 is negative 12. And now we're going to put our wings out. Write your two parentheses. And inside the parentheses, now we start off at the beginning. You basically always write this part, the first part, what I call the AX. Okay, you're going to write this part, but you are going to remove the exponent. Okay, so I'm going to write 1b and 1b. Now, why are we removing the exponent? If we think about multiplication, these two things are going to get multiplied together later, and b times b is b squared. Okay, so that's kind of why it's being broken up. Now, in the other spots, let's put our two magic numbers. So minus 5 and minus 7. And now we're looking at what can I divide out. So 1 and 5, I can only divide out a 1. 1 and 7, looking at the smaller number, I can only divide out a 1. And these are our two wheels. We put our wheels down. If you did it right, these two things multiplied together. 1 times 1, it should be what our a value is. So 1 times 1 is 1. So that looks like it's working. And I write my final factored form. So divided 1 out, and I get b minus 5. Divided 1 out, I get b minus 7. And that is our factored form. Okay. Just so that you know, if you did this correctly, if you did the box and you multiplied it, you should go back to the very beginning. Now, please don't do that on every problem, thinking that you have to get back here. This is our answer. That's our factored form. Okay, let's look at another one. It's not going to make sense right away. So let's look at this one. Got 2n squared plus 3n minus 9. So 2, 3, and negative 9. Smallest number is 2, okay? And I cannot divide those other numbers by 2. So when it's done, okay? Start your propeller. 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. B value is 3, so it adds up to 3, okay? So the two numbers here are negative 3 and positive 6. Those are our two numbers. Negative 3 and positive 6. So let's put our wings out. Okay, and remember, we start off with this part. Okay, you take off the exponent. So I have 2n and 2n. Now, if we look at this, n times n is n squared, so that's going to be good. But 2 times 2 isn't 4, so there's going to be work to do. Put our magic numbers. Minus 3 plus 6. And now let's look at what can I divide out. So the first one, 2 and 3 can only divide out a 1. 2 and 6, I can divide those both by 2. And if I did this correctly, 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, that should happen every time. Okay, let's go ahead and write our final answer, our final factored form. Divide these both by 1. I get 2n minus 3, so it doesn't really change. Divide both of these by 2. 2n divided by 2 is 1n. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And that would be my factored form. Okay, let's look at our next one. Got two more together. Write this one down. Got 10b squared plus 17b plus 6. Okay, there's our A, there's our B, there's our C. Let's look for something to divide out. So 10, 17, 6. Smallest number 6. I can't divide 17 by 6. 3, I can't divide by 3. I can't divide by 2, so it's 1, it's done. Okay, there's nothing to divide out. Start your propeller. 10 times 6 is 60. adds up to be 17. So when I'm looking for my magic numbers, it ends up being 5 and 12. 5 times 12 is 60. 5 plus 12 is 17. So let's start this off. And when I start here, remember you're writing this part without the exponent of 2. So 10b, 10b. And then we put our magic numbers. So plus 5, plus 12. Okay, we're just using those two numbers that we found. Looking for what I can divide out. For 10 and 5, 5 is the smallest number, and I can divide them both by 5. So that'll work. 5. 10 and 12, smallest numbers, 10. Can divide 10 by 10, by 5, and by 2, and 2 works. And again, I check my wheels. Got to put those wheels down and check them. 5 times 2 is 10. So I know I have the right wheels. Okay, so let's go ahead and divide this out. For the first one, when I divide both of these by 5, I get 2b plus 1. When I divide both of these by 2, I get 5b plus 6. And I am done. Okay, got one last problem. Okay, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and pause the video and try this on your own. If you don't, just follow along with me one more time. Okay, so look for what I can divide out. I have a 6, a -1, and a -2. So the 1. Well, this 1, it's done. So that's done. Start my propeller. A is 6, B is -1, C is -2. So 6 times -2 is -12. Adds up to be -1. And I look for my magic numbers, and they are 3 times -4. 3 times -4 is -12. 3 plus -4 is -1. Okay, now put our wings out. Remember, we start with this without the exponent of 2. So 6r, 6r. And then we're going to fill in those two magic numbers. So plus 3, minus 4. And we're looking, what can I divide out of the individual binomials? So for this one, 6 and 3. 3 is the smallest number, and I can divide 6 by 3. So that works. 6 and 4. 4 I can divide by 4. Can divide by 2. 2 works. I look at my tires. 3 times 2, that is 6. So I know I have correct tires. And let's go ahead and write out my factored form then. Divide both of these by 3. That's going to be 2r plus 1. Divide both of these by 2. And that's going to be 3r minus 2. And that's our factored form. Okay. Again, I do want you to see, if I look at this, if I did it correctly and I did my box, and no, you do not have to do a box. I'm just showing you that they do work in reverse order. If I do the box, 2r times 3r is 6r squared. 2r times -1 is -2r. Sorry, I just realized I wrote down a -1 right there. 3r minus 2. So 2r times -2 is -4r. 1 times 3r is 3r. And 1 times -2 is -2. And if I did this, I get 6r squared. Okay. When I add these r's, I'm going to get -1r, which is right here, and -2, which is right there. Okay, so they do work in reverse order. Okay, again, you do not have to do a box. Okay, just follow the airplane method. This is your final answer. Okay. All right, what you need to do now is you need to go ahead and complete your homework assignment. There's 10 problems on it. When you're done with the homework, make sure that you are working on any missing assignments, any missing work, especially in regards to quizzes and your tests. All right, we will see you later. Hopefully this isn't too choppy because I did have to pause a number of times. Thanks in part to the wonderful PA system going off every couple minutes. So we'll see you guys. Hasta luego. Arrivederci. Adios.